Alright guys, so today we got a good one, or at least a pretty good debate. Truthfully, I'm not really sure why there's a debate, but there is a debate going on with it. So we're going to talk about it. You could probably tell by the title what it is. It's Mcdavid versus Matthews, or Matthews versus Mcdavid, depending on if you're an Oilers fan or a Leafs fan. And a lot of the information that I'm going to give in this video is just pure facts. We're going to focus a lot on statistics as those facts, because really very few of us know these two individuals personally, so it's kind of hard to say anything else really outside of the facts. Really quick, I'm going to touch on a couple of things that I guess that are being said about Connor McDavid. I'm going to try and be as unbiased as possible, but again, being an Oilers fan, it kind of makes that difficult. A couple of the myths that are being said about this guy, I will say I've truly only heard these myths coming from, well, most of them coming from Toronto Maple Leaf fans. And that's not a knock on Maple Leaf fans. They're a knowledgeable fan base, if not one of the most knowledgeable in the NHL. The reason why I say it's coming from them is because when I've had these conversations, it's unanimous through every one of the Maple Leaf fans. They all say basically the same thing, right? So I've heard some other things about McDavid from other fan bases, things like that, but this is a unanimous thing that if you ask any Maple Leaf fan, they're pretty much going to say this about Connor McDavid. At least the ones that believe Matthews is better than McDavid. This video is not about the team. It's not about saying which team is better. This is strictly about the individual player, okay? I will straight up openly admit that the Toronto Maple Leafs are a better team than the Edmonton Oilers, right? I don't think anybody, I think if an Oilers fan says otherwise right now, I think they're delusional, right? So this is about the two individual players, right? Not the support system that they have. So a couple of things that I've had conversations with in regards to Connor McDavid, and I've had conversations with a lot of the Maple Leaf fans. A lot of it starts off, something on Facebook, right? They'll have the four players that'll say, oh, which player do you think is better? And you'll have to pick a symbol or whatever, right? And you'll get a Maple Leaf fan that of course I'll choose Connor McDavid, and there's probably Crosby and Erik Karlsson or whatever, right? So I'll choose Connor McDavid, and there'll be a Maple Leaf fan that'll choose Austin Matthews, right? So I'll just straight up ask them why. Like, I don't any of my, I guess, conversations that I have with other fans or about other teams, like I don't insult. I'll never insult anybody, because I feel like if you're insulting somebody, you've already lost. Like, that doesn't really fit in a debate or in something like that. Because it's just a game. Like, we can all be civil, and maybe you can change each other's minds, right? So I'll just sit up and ask, it's like, okay, well, why is he better? And one of the ones that come up is he doesn't ever pass the puck. He's a puck hog. He doesn't have any interest in making the team better or the players around him better. And as I go through the stats, which I do have like a board up. It's basically, I'm going to do McDavid and Matthews on the bottom. I'm going to go through games played, goals, assists. I'll get to that in a sec. But I'm going to basically debunk these myths, essentially, just by strictly going off of those, right? So one of the things that I ask these, the fans that say, oh, he's a puck hog, he's things like that, right? I ask them, okay, well, in this case, I was talking to 4 or 5 Toronto Maple Leaf fans on this one comment. One comment section, and I said, well, how's he a puck hog, right? Like, have you guys seen him play? Like, where have you seen him play? Well, none of them had said that they've seen him play in Edmonton. Not that matters, but why that makes a difference is basically that means, okay, so you've seen him play in Toronto. McDavid's been in the league for 3 years. I can't recall if in his first year when he broke his collarbone, if he actually played in Toronto. If that's not the case, then really you've only seen him play twice. live, right? They said, well, no, we've seen highlights. We've seen highlights of this guy, like we know, right? Which kind of set off a light bulb for me. Okay, well, this makes sense, right? So which game are you talking about? And a lot of them went to last year, the very first game against the Flames. And they all said, oh, well, yeah, he scored all 3 goals. All he wanted to do was pad his stats, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, I was at that game live. It was here in Edmonton. He did score all 3 goals, and he did dominate the game. But there was a lot of things going on in that game that that helped him, right? And I asked him, well, what, describe to me, show me, what do you mean? And some of them threw in some highlights, and the number one play, of course, was the one where McDavid made a defensive play in the Oilers zone, took the puck off the Calgary Flames player, and then went 40 kilometers up the ice, 40 kilometers an hour up the ice, blew by everybody, and then froze Mike Smith and scored. That's not hogging the puck. You're using your skill. He's a weapon. His speed is a weapon. He's using that to his advantage, right? But I try explaining that to them. They're like, well, no, he does that on every play. I'm like, well, no, I wish he does that on every play, because we would, be Stanley Cup champions at this point if he did that. So that's one of them that I will debunk, no problem. There's talks that no leadership. Again, he has no interest in helping or making the team better. That one I'm going to talk about real quick right now, because this guy, if you put any other center in the NHL and put the amount of wingers that Connor McDavid has had to play with, I don't think they have back-to-back 100-point seasons. In fact, there's a lot of players that haven't had back-to-back 100-point seasons. Even Sidney Crosby, who's still an elite player in this league, has had consistency on his line, right? McDavid hasn't. He just hasn't. He's now got another center in Ryan Nugent-Hopkins as his left wing, and who the hell knows on the right wing. So, inconsistency. But the one fact with that is you look at any of those players that play on his wing, and they become better. Look at someone like Patrick Maroon. His game went up, right? And I know that he's gone on to New Jersey, and now he's in St. Louis, and he's a better all-around player, but he's a better all-around player because he played with Connor McDavid. It's as simple as that. He was nothing when he came to Edmonton, and he played on Connor McDavid's wing and excelled, right? Not everybody can play with Connor McDavid. Milan Lucic is a prime example. Not everybody has the brain, the hockey brain to play, right? But to say that he has no leadership and he doesn't make the team better is totally false and inaccurate. That's what an elite player and that's what a franchise player does. So that's completely inaccurate. So that's just spewing off information, right? And that's one thing I won't do in this video, is you will not hear me say anything untrue about Austin Matthews or Connor McDavid, of course, but I won't say anything untrue. I won't spew off facts like that or myths or create anything like that. And then they say that he's a one-dimensional player, which we'll get to that, but that is the furthest from the truth. And that he has no defense. He doesn't play defense. He's all about offense and padding his stats, right? So we're going to debunk all of those. We'll get right into it here. So the sections that I've got here, I don't have all of them. I have the ones that I think are the most relevant. I don't have the playoff stats on here, but if I recall, I think they both played 13 games. I think Connor has 9 points. Matthews has 7. So, it's a wash. Matthews has got 2 playoff appearances. Connor basically has 2 playoff appearances because he played in the second round, right? So I'm working on games played, and what I've also done in this is I understand that Connor McDavid has got an extra year, technically. But, so if you look at, Connor McDavid, he's got 209 games played. So 209. And Austin Matthews has got 144. This is just regular season, not playoffs. So what I've also done is I've taken in account the fact that Matthews has got 1 less year in theory, right? So a couple of those stats, basically the stats that matter. So, your goals, your points, whatever. I've essentially done the math on it just to make it a little bit more fair. Everything else, I'm not really too worried about, right? Great, if you have more goals, you have more goals, whatever, right? The important numbers are what we're going to go over here. So 209 to 144. So the reason why this is important in a couple of ways is because in theory, so Connor has actually missed more games due to injury. He missed like half that year with a collarbone, but since then hasn't missed a game. Matthews has missed, I think, 22 games or something like that. So not a lot. He hasn't missed that many games. He just hasn't had a whole extra season, which is why I thought, okay, it's fair. Let's add if we're on a 209 game pace for Austin Matthews. Okay. So total goals right now actually does favor Connor McDavid. Again, I think that's just because of the fact that Matthews hasn't played as much, because his goals per game is actually higher than Connor McDavid. Right now, Connor McDavid is sitting at 87 goals for his career, and Austin Matthews is sitting at I think it's 74 for his career. So when you look at these numbers, again, this ratio is a lot better than this ratio. Simple. I know Connor just had a 41 goal season, but Matthews has, he had a 40 goal season in his rookie year, right? So this equivalent, I didn't do the exact math on this, but I think this is about 105 or 106 goals. If he played at the pace that he's scoring, played 209 games, he's on for 106 goals or something. So he trumps McDavid in the pure goal scoring category. I don't think there's anybody that disagrees. The guy's got a wicked shot. That's his weapon. So when we go back to saying, oh, McDavid, used his speed and that's all that he's, done, he's a puck hog, then, well, Matthews is using his weapon and shooting the puck, right? Each player has a weapon. That's why it's only fair to say that, right? So you go into assists, and this is where we'll talk a little bit about some of those myths. So Connor McDavid, you've got 169 assists in the 3 years. Austin Matthews is sitting at a whopping 58 in his 2. So, where is he? 58. So Matthews is sitting at 58 assists. So less assists than goals. So now, okay, we go back to that one. He never passes the puck. Never makes a pass. He's selfish and he hogs the puck. Okay, well, this number is like almost double the goal total. So for a guy that never passes the puck and always hogs the puck, if you're going to go off of statistics, like facts, that would mean this guy never passes the puck, because he's got more goals than assists. And I know that sounds ridiculous, and that's why it's ridiculous when somebody says, "Oh, McDavid hogs the puck." No, he doesn't. Okay, this guy passes. In his first year, he passed too much. We were screaming at him, "Shoot the damn puck, Connor! Shoot the puck! Shoot the puck!" He never did. I mean, he scored 30 goals, but the guy could have had 40, right? And all of a sudden, next year, he revamps his game, takes the game to another level, almost has the same amount of assists as he did the previous year. He had 67. Okay, and he had 70 the year before. Okay, which brings me to my next thing, where he says, never passes the puck. Okay, he led the league in assists in 2016-17 when the Oilers made the playoffs with 70. He was second with 67. Okay, last year, second with 67 behind Blake Wheeler, who had 68. Okay, and he was clear-cut second. Like, I think the next guy below him was like 65 or something. So he was second. He was first and second in passing, in assists, but all he does is hog the puck. Okay, he has no defense. Okay, well, last year led the takeaway department like you would never believe. He had like 104 or 105 takeaways or something crazy. That's 21 more than Jeff Skinner, who was second. And if we're going to compare Matthews and McDavid, it's 37 more. It's 37 more takeaways than Austin Matthews. But McDavid doesn't play defense. Okay? So far this brings you to a total of, for Connor McDavid-wise, points 256. And Austin Matthews is sitting at 132. Again, I know that it's one less year. Okay, I understand that, but at the rate that we're going here, I think that it's important that this is one of the stats where I did the math on it. Essentially, what this equates to is he's at about 220 points, 222 points is what Austin Matthews would be if it was over a like 209 game pace like Connor McDavid. So, it's not bad. I'm not saying that's bad in any way, shape, or form, okay? But he's at 222 roughly, still puts him quite a bit behind Connor McDavid, right? 256, he's still 35 points behind, which doesn't sound like a lot, but he's still behind. Okay, if you're looking at the points total aspect of that. His goals are up, his assists are down compared to him, his overall points are down, right? So that's a pretty big jump between points if they were to each play the same amount of games. So I'm going to jump stats a little bit here and go points per game statistics. So that breaks down essentially to where each of these guys are at, like at per game aspect, right? So Connor McDavid at a points per game is scoring at a 1.22 points per game. I think last year he finished at a 1.3. Matthews is not even at a point per game. I know he was last year. He had 64 and 63 or 63 points in 62 games or whatever. I understand that, but he's still, at a career-wise, not there yet. So 0.91, and that's why essentially over a 209-game stints, he's not where Connor McDavid is yet, right? He's just not quite there, right? He's quite a bit less, but I mean it's close to the point per game. But he's got to get there. If you're going to call yourself an elite or franchise player, you got to be a point per game guy, right? That's why I don't really call Leon Draisaitl an elite player. He's a great player, but he's not an elite player, right? You got to be at that point per game, and he's close. He's getting there, but he's not quite there yet, right? So it brings the case. So we'll go back to the next step here, the plus minus category. Now this isn't a very important category, but it does indicate a couple of things. So Connor McDavid as a career is at plus 46. Austin Matthews, I think he's sitting at he's pretty good too. I think he's at 27, plus 27. There's a couple of things I want to talk about this. So Connor McDavid's got, this is where the more games in his career actually can come back and bite you in the butt. 209 games played. In theory, if he was not playing defense and didn't have defense as a priority in his game, and I'm not saying he's perfect defensively, he's going to work on some stuff, but if he had no defense, like a lot of these fans are saying, this number would not be higher than Austin Matthews. Austin Matthews has played less games, which in turn should mean a higher plus minus. I think in his first year he's a plus 2 or plus 4. Like, he wasn't very good. This last year he was really good. He was plus 25 or whatever. So then plus 2. We'll do the math, right? But for a guy that doesn't play defense, geez, that's pretty darn good, right? For a career average. The other thing with this is Connor McDavid plays everywhere. He's playing on the penalty kill. He's playing on the power play. He's everywhere. Austin Matthews isn't. Okay, and that brings us to, I don't have this on here, but shorthanded goals, Matthews has got 0. He has 0 shorthanded goals. McDavid doesn't have a ton either. He's got like 2 or 3, but still, defensive role, and he's still producing offense while not giving up a ton, right? Power play goals, that's, it's not terribly one-sided in any way, shape, or form. It's pretty even. 11 for Connor McDavid, Again, this is your career-wise with it. And 13 for Austin Matthews. So Matthews is winning in that category. I think if he got more power play time, I think his numbers would skyrocket. But for whatever reason, Babcock doesn't put him on the power play right now. I think that'll likely change this year with them having Tavares. So pretty even there. It's not that important of a stat, but it just shows where a lot of the times I'm hearing them say, "Oh, well, Matthews on the power play is way better than Connor McDavid quarterbacking a power play." Well, not really. I mean, they're pretty darn close here, right? Again, it works into his favor. Significantly less games, right? So I understand that. And so, of course, with that, I threw in the power play points. This is where things get a little one-sided onto Connor McDavid's side. Power play points, 61 for Connor McDavid. Again, one extra year. So 61 and 34 for Austin Matthews. So 34 for Austin Matthews. So again, guy never passes the puck. He hogs the puck. That's all he does. Well, he's only got 11 power play goals. He got 61 power play points. So do the math. It's way more assists than goals, guys. So I think we're pretty close to the point here, and I got more. So don't worry. To the point where we've debunked all of those. One-dimensional player, all that jazz. Well, no, he's not. If you see him score, he's terrible on breakaways. And I think he's terrible on breakaways because he gets so many. So it's just like, we watch him and it's like, oh, another breakaway for Connor McDavid. He gets one a game. Like, I think he averaged one a game last year, right? The other thing that, I want to touch on here is, if somebody is hogging the puck and doing this, there's no way that this next number is where Connor McDavid's is. And there's not a big jump between this number. I don't know if anybody really knows what Corsi numbers are, but it's essentially your possession numbers. So you're looking at, shots forced, how much time you're, spending in the offensive zone. You as a one player spending in the offensive zone, right? How much time are you controlling the play in the offensive zone? How many shots, are you taking on the net against? How many are against you, right? It's a possession number. It's not a perfect system, but it's a good indicator on basically who should be out on the ice at certain times, right? Well, the Corsi number that elite players want to be at is a 55%. So meaning 55% of the time that you're on the ice, you're in the offensive zone creating chances, right? That doesn't sound like a lot, but because the game is so fast going back and forth and you've only got, 45 to a minute and a half shifts, roughly, depending on the player, it's to spend 55 or more % of the time in the offensive zone means you're playing defense, means you're generating offense, right? There's some players that are terrible at this. Okay, like I think Milan Lucic is at like 30%. Like, it's terrible. There's a lot of players that are terrible. Okay, so again, we're going off of career, and both of these guys are actually in the elite level. 55. If 55 is the bar for elite, both of these guys are actually in the elite level. Connor McDavid is at 57.1%, which is very good. Again, anything above 55 is very good. And Austin Matthews is at 56.1. So you're probably asking, okay, well, great. Like, that's not a big difference. That is a big difference. That's a whole another 1%, right? And again, when you take into account the fact that McDavid's got so many more games, to have that number still higher than that number, that's pretty hard to do, because you have more games to, yes, you have more games to produce more offense, but you have more games to be less effective, right? It's a smaller ratio to judge by. The other thing I want to touch on is McDavid's never been under 55. In the 3 years that he's been in the league, he's never been under 55%. I don't even think he's been under 56%. Like, he's dominated that category. Austin Matthews last year was at 54.5 or something. So he dropped below that elite level. Still very respectable and very good, but if we're talking elites, We're talking franchise players. That's it, right? We're gonna touch on the awards really quick, and then we're gonna basically summarize, right? And then that'll be it for today's video. So award-wise, there's really not a lot for Austin Matthews. You know, and that's not a dock on Austin Matthews, but Connor McDavid, he has got, well, he's been in the league for 3 years, so he's got 2 Ted Lindsay Awards. 2 Ted Awards. I call them Ted Awards, I don't know why. You know, he's got the 1 Hart. He was the, I don't know, it's not really I guess an award, but he was a cover athlete for NHL 18. You know, again, not really an award, but it's there, right? And 2 Art Ross trophies as well. So there was a lot of people that believe that he should have been. Oh, sorry. There we go. 2 Art Ross trophies this year. A lot of people believe that he should have been the Hart. Won the Hart again this year. I don't know. The Hart Trophy is not really that big of a deal to me. I mean, it's nice if the guy wins it, but I mean, I think the Art Ross is the one that is really the one that matters, because all the players that really play with the guy and against the guy and see him on a nightly basis have voted and said, look, this guy is the best, right? I think Hall had a great year. And I think this year, if Connor McDavid gets 120 points and the Oilers make the playoffs, he's getting that, no problem, right? So, for Austin Matthews, he's got the Calder Trophy in his rookie year. And like that's it for actual hardware. And that's, again, not a dock on him. There's a lot of guys that, you know, it's hard to win these awards. He also, I did touch. He also led the league, or sorry, led all rookies in that rookie year with 40 goals. So 40 goals in a rookie season is phenomenal. So, but that's it. That's all he has, right? So, looking at all of this, and taking into account that, you know, Matthews got this year's coming into his 3rd year. Looking at all this, I don't understand how people say that Austin Matthews is better than Connor McDavid. I 110% believe that Toronto is a better team, and they will probably win a cup before the Edmonton Oilers. I would love to see Edmonton-Toronto final, but I just don't see, as a player, individual player, there's no way Austin Matthews right now in his career, I'm not saying 5 years down the road, I'm saying right now in his career is a better player than Austin Matthews, or with better player than Connor McDavid. There's zero supporting evidence of that. I think the playoffs, you know, we're talking leadership. One guy's a captain, one guy isn't yet. I think he will be, but he's not yet. And a lot of people said McDavid was too young. Okay, was he? I don't know. Like, he's, you know, if it's inevitable, just give it to him, right? He'll learn the captaincy position. He'll learn that position, and he'll lead, right? And McDavid leads. I watch him all the time. He leads. So, you know, the playoffs were a prime example. Austin Matthews, you know, reacted in that interview inappropriately. I understand he was mad, but that's not the reaction of a leader. It's as simple as that. I've seen Connor McDavid get upset in interviews, and it's not a reaction like that. I know every player is different, right? But if you're talking looking at a leader and trying to be a leader, like, that's not Austin Matthews' reaction in the playoffs was not it. And I know he's frustrated, right? But back-to-back Game 7 losses, okay, he really didn't do anything in this playoffs, right? He struggled. And I've said it before in my other videos, the playoffs is a different beast. And you have to be, that's the difference between a franchise player and you know, an elite player. And Connor McDavid's a franchise player. I know he's only got 9 points in 13 playoff games, which is only 2 more than Austin Matthews. But Matthews never once controlled that game. He never controlled that series. Connor McDavid took over the 2 series he played in, right? San Jose and Anaheim. There was moments where he took that game over, right? That's the difference, right? can you, as a franchise player, push your team to be better? And Matthews being out of the lineup, the team didn't get worse. It really didn't. Is it as an overall team worse without Austin Matthews? Sure. But if you took Connor McDavid out of the Edmonton Oilers, holy crap. Like, 78 points would have been awesome last year. Right? You take Austin Matthews out of the Toronto Maple Leafs, we saw it for 20 games last year, nothing really happened. You know, there were some fans that were saying, hey, let's trade Austin Matthews. We clearly don't need him. We don't need to sign him. Right? They brought in John Tavares. I don't know really what that means, right? But at this point in their careers, I think there's enough evidence here. There's enough evidence you look anywhere. There's not one honest fan that will say that in 2015, if Connor McDavid became available to your team, that you wouldn't have taken him. And there's not one honest Oiler fan that would say if Austin Matthews was readily available for us, that we wouldn't have taken him. They're both phenomenal players. They're both great players. But Connor McDavid is a franchise player, and Austin Matthews is an elite. There's a difference. There's a difference. And Austin Matthews might win a cup before, but if you put Austin Matthews on the Edmonton Oilers, I think we get a Taylor Hall situation. Right? Taylor Hall, an elite player for years here, and it just didn't quite pan out. Some injuries came in. Like, Austin Matthews reminded me a lot of Taylor Hall. So I don't think, I'm not knocking Toronto fans in any way, shape, or form, but unless you guys can supply real evidence to me that Austin Matthews is truly better than Connor McDavid, I'm just going to keep trumping you guys in the comments pretty much, because there's no factual evidence behind that at all. And again, you guys are going to win a cup. Toronto's going to win a cup. Edmonton will eventually win a cup. But looking at the two individual players, Connor McDavid is better than Austin Matthews. So that's it for today's video. I have no clue what the next video is going to be yet. This one went on a little longer than I wanted it to, but I think it was important to get as many facts in there as I could. So if you disagree or agree, leave a comment below. Hit the subscribe button. I'm working on trying to get some better equipment and some better things, because right now basically I'm recording in front of a tablet, so it's kind of hard to do any proper editing or anything like that. I'm going to be getting a bigger whiteboard, so that'll be a thing. And I'll be hanging some pictures up and things like that, so it actually kind of looks like an actual hockey room as opposed to just a bedroom. So again, if you agree or disagree, leave a comment, hit the subscribe button, and I'll probably talk to you guys tomorrow.